to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers, and you are in Season 6 of Wrestling at Random, where the theme is more wrestling than ever. Say it all the time somehow. This is more wrestling than the more wrestling than ever from Season 5. We've roughly doubled the amount of professional wrestling content dumped into the randomizer. It chooses something for us to watch at random. That's what happens, and boy, did that happen this week. We are, as I said, into the 6th season of this show, and there are yet more World Wrestling Federation television programs that we have never seen. I don't mean particular episodes, but shows as a whole. It was really funny, Jeremy, when the randomizer pulled this, because you did not know what this program was. And I'm like, you were more of a WWF guy growing up than I was, but then I remembered this show, its short-lived run, took place entirely during your dark period in the early to mid 90s when you got out of professional wrestling. This was, for my money, one of the WWF television programs that I enjoyed more than most. It's WWF Action Zone. I think that the whole reason I think back fondly on Action Zone is because of one match. There was a great Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Razor Ramon and 1, 2, 3 Kid match on Action Zone that is right there with Brett versus 1, 2, 3 Kid is my favorite WWF TV match of all time. Sadly, that is not on this episode, which I believe it's November. Is it November 14th?
13th.
November 13th of 1994. You'll get into it, I'm sure, but Action Zone aired on USA Network. It was basically like a syndicated show that wasn't a syndicated show. It was on at like 11 a.m. or noon. It's somewhere in like the timeline of Mania as well. WWF Mania, not WrestleMania. But yeah, I vividly remember this being a thing on USA that felt like it was a syndicated show.
The WWF Action Zone was a World Wrestling Federation program airing on the USA Network, as you mentioned, from October 23rd, 1994 to September 15th, 1996. So you're right, exactly my entire dark period of wrestling. Action Zone replaced the long-running All-American Wrestling.
Okay.
Which aired from 1983 until its cancellation in 1994.
I'm disappointed you're not wearing your sweet WWF All-American Wrestling t-shirt.
I literally wanted to go get it, but due to logistics as we were recording this, I could not make it happen. I know right where it is, but I could not get to it. So if you're watching on the YouTube channel, I will have an All-American Wrestling shirt on at some point, and this is the most appropriate time to have it, but I don't.
Well, the second most appropriate time. All-American Wrestling would be the most appropriate.
If we have one, if we get one pulled, the randomizer pulled this one here, and this show was they were trying to air more high-quality matches and have more top talent appear on the show. The debut episode had a main event that featured Bret Hart defending the WWF Championship against Owen Hart.
Yes, I remember that as well. And yeah, no, this was like, it wasn't Raw, but it was a step up from the syndicated shows. Like you said, getting to see stars versus stars. It was a very non-WWF idea for a television show during that time.
The match you mentioned, the tag team championship match between Michaels and Diesel defending against Razor Ramon and the 1, 2, 3 Kid, that was week 2. So week 1 had Bret and Owen. That match you described was week 2 of the show.
So you're telling me that this show followed the time-honored tradition of so many shows that swore up and down, we're not the B show, we're not the C show, we're another A show. And for a couple of weeks it felt that way, and then it didn't. I wonder if the working title of Rampage was Action Zone.
This is like the 3rd or 4th episode that we're reviewing today, and couldn't be more different than the first 2 episodes we recapped.
Yeah, it is in the grand tradition of the randomizer picking things very close to the thing we would want to see, but not
awesome adjacent.
Yeah. Awesome adjacent, exactly. Which is more like frustration adjacent, because being adjacent awesome does not. None of the awesome radiates off of that. We should also mention this, we've talked about with, so many more things in the randomizer this season. This episode of Action Zone is was from a deep, dark recesses of the dark web collection that is a part of
you're
the
not gonna find it.
randomizer.
Not gonna find it on YouTube. You're not gonna find
No.
it in the WWF's back catalog, WWE Network, Netflix, Peacock. You're not gonna find it anywhere there.
Mysterious benefactors have
we
granted
have
us
access.
access to professional wrestling, and this would be one of those.
And the randomizer pulled it, and you just to let you know, we're going to talk about the announce team. The announce team is Vince McMahon and Todd Pettengill.
I'm amazed that I have any positive memories of this as a television program, given this commentary team. Somehow, Todd Pettengill makes Vince McMahon tolerable by comparison as an announcer.
You would not remember this combination because Jim Ross quickly took over Vince McMahon's role on this show after 3 weeks. And Gorilla Monsoon would occasionally fill in for Ross. And then as the show evolved, do you know who the last hosts were of this show? Todd Pettengill and Doc Hendricks.
Jesus, that is a terrifying combination. By the way, I just looked up because in my head it was that Action Zone replaced WWF Mania. You just explained that was not true. It replaced All American Wrestling. And yeah, Mania was on Saturday morning. So at that point, you had a Saturday morning show on USA Network being Mania, and then a Sunday morning show on USA Network being Action Zone. And then you still also had Superstars and Challenge in their different forms airing.
Yeah.
And I would imagine in some markets they were airing opposites. Like you had Superstars probably airing at the same time as either Mania or Action Zone, which seems insane.
So after only 1 year, so like really almost 2 years, by the end of 95, Action Zone became exclusively a highlight show.
That explains why in my head,
Raw.
I thought it ended in 1995.
Yeah, because it just became a highlight show for Raw and Superstars.
Huh.
So, and it was canceled, like I mentioned, in September of 1996. So let's get into the Action Zone. We are 10 days away from the 1994 Survivor Series.
What a show that was.
We joined this show already in progress. The opening match was Jerry the King Lawler taking on Sparky Plug Bob Holly.
Yes, at this point, this was in the transition where he was still a race car driver, but he was no longer Thurman Sparky Plug. He was Bob Spark Plug Holly, as if that somehow made the situation better. We joined this match in progress, and this is the closest thing to a real competitive match on this show. Like I thought, okay, well, the show will build. This is basically your main event at the beginning. Again, this tape joins this match in this show in progress as Jerry the King Lawler hits a suplex on Bob Holly while his mini King's Court is ringside of, what is it, Cheesy, Wheezy, and Queasy, three small men dressed up like Jerry Lawler.
Yes, because Jerry Lawler's team is going to take on Doink the Clown's team. I don't feel like I missed much of the World Wrestling Federation in 1994.
I saw Survivor Series at my brother's best friend's house. He was a huge WWF fan. So like rather than we had a strict one pay-per-view per month at most limit in the household, and so that was always going to go to WCW.
Sure. And
so that was the way of being able to go to be able to watch these shows. And I can vividly remember watching this show at this kid's place, and we'll
run down the card a little bit.
It was not a great professional wrestling show. Not that WCW is churning out anything great at this point either. To scene set, we are several months on the WCW side into Hulk Hogan's basically takeover of WCW. We are in the build-up to the worst Starrcade of at least the era where you could call Starrcade, with the double main event of Randy Savage versus Avalanche John Tenta and Hulk Hogan versus the Butcher Ed Leslie.
Back to this match. He gets thrown back inside by Holly. Holly hits a slow motion monkey flip out of the corner.
So slow motion that I thought it was like everything about the setup for this, and even the first few seconds of this, totally screamed Lawler is going to hold on to the ropes and Bob Holly is going to fall back first in the mat. Instead, this just, like you said, was the slowest monkey flip out of the corner ever.
And it turns out that's because charges into the corner, crotches himself, and then Lawler gets the pin. So that was like, I don't know what was going on here, but
well, and that finish I hate. They're like, I always hate in wrestling when a guy would miss a move that there's no way he'd actually hit.
What was this move?
Was he going for a flying body scissors in the corner? Was he going to fly halfway across the ring and pull guard on Jerry Lawler and go for a triangle? I don't think so. Like, this wasn't a move. The only time you would ever do this is when you're going to miss. It's equivalent to like when Arn Anderson would come off the second rope for an axe handle while his opponent was flat on the mat and his opponent would get the foot up. You're only doing that to have it be countered.
We get a promo for the Survivor Series. Todd Pettengill is in full sales pitch mode here, telling us to get our Survivor Series program. It's got a poster of The Undertaker in it.
There has never been a more insufferable dork on a major professional wrestling program than Todd Pettengill. And I say this as being somewhat of an insufferable dork myself, but he is just relentlessly annoying throughout this entire show. I don't know if this was like, this made Vince McMahon feel more manly or what the vibe was between these two. But this, like, he's shilling the program. He has this giant fold-out poster of The Undertaker. That's part of the program. Then he has a full-size, without the fold creases version of this poster mocked up on a poster board. And he pulls that out. It's terrible. It also looks horrible visually because they're so clearly just sitting at an announce booth, like, in a studio, and it's like green screened in front of the arena, but in a far worse way than like you're imagining the WWF usually does it. Just really low rent looking.
They run down the Survivor Series card. The WWF Championship is on the line. Bret Hart defends the title against Bob Backlund in a submission match. There's a casket match between Yokozuna and The Undertaker. Chuck Norris, at this point, cuts a promo. He's going to be at ringside to keep people from interfering in that match. The Survivor Series, traditional Survivor Series match of the bad guys taking on the Teamsters. The bad guys is the team of Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, Head Shrinker Fatu, the Barbarian, and Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog.
I feel like we've mentioned this one other time when we've seen this from this time period. I was watching WWF TV regularly during this time period and wasn't really enjoying it, but I was so disgusted with what WCW had become when Hogan came in that I needed something else. I have no recollection of Barbarian as Sione being one half of the Head Shrinkers with Fatu, with Samu being gone. Also, I don't know there's ever been a more clear window into the mind of Vince McMahon than having the Teamsters, which is the name of a union, being heels in a tag team match against a group of men who are baby faces called the Bad Guys.
The Teamsters are Diesel, Shawn Michaels, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, Owen Hart, and Jeff Jarrett. The other Survivor Series match is Guts and Glory versus the $1 Million Team. The team of Guts and Glory. I was ready to hear Hercules or Paul Roma was going to be on this team. That was not the case.
There was no Power, but I guess it would have been Paul Roma because I think we know Power. Is in my mind, I always imagine Power and Glory wrestling in another territory as masks, and one of them being Power and one of them being Glory wrestling under masks. But so Glory, Paul Roma is not here. It is Adam Bomb, the future Wrath, future one half of Chronic, teaming with Billy and Bart, the Smoking Guns, Mabel, and Lex Luger.
Their opponents, the $1 Million Team. This is Ted DiBiase's stable, his corporation, which featured Bam Bam Bigelow, Tatanka, the Heavenly Bodies, and King Kong Bundy. This team is awesome.
It's a team. It's also bizarre that IRS, Erwin R. Scheister, Mike Rotunda, who we see several times on this episode of Action Zone with Ted DiBiase, is not a part of this team. So you are the sixth best man. You are the bench guy on this $1 Million corporation team. So yeah, there's also, as we mentioned, the Survivor Series match of Cheesy, Queasy, and Sleazy, along with Jerry Lawler, taking on Dink, Doink, Pink, and Wink the Clown. This show sucked. Bob Backlund versus Bret Hart went 35 minutes and 11 seconds. I remember, I enjoyed the build to this, and I enjoyed anything that was Bret versus Owen adjacent. But this match, watching it live on pay-per-view, dragged and dragged and dragged and dragged some more. The dark match on the show, by the way, the spark plug himself, Bob Holly, defeating Quang the Ninja with Harvey Whippleman.
Oh, gosh.
The future Savio Vega.
Back to the ring. The Smoking Guns are in action, taking on the jobber tag team of Jeremy Cutter and Nick Barbary.
Jeremy Cutter is an amazing human being. My notes just say delightfully pathetic. Blue singlet, heavy, flabby,
yes,
doughy pal with an unbelievable skullet pulled back into a tight ponytail.
That's what we love. We love our jobbers like
he
this.
Understood the assignment, and so did whoever booked this match. Nick Barbary is just sort of your garden variety job guy, but Jeremy Cutter is incredible. I actually am going to look up right now Jeremy Cutter on Cage Match. I need to know everything about this man.
Yeah, my notes just say he's wearing ill-fitting gear, which we always appreciate. It's like a strap is falling down at all times. Love it. Barbary briefly puts a sleeper on Billy Gunn. Otherwise, this is all guns.
I am heartbroken to tell you, Jeremy Cutter, I somehow just immediately, so this may have been his only match. I Googled Jeremy Cutter cage match. It took me to this taping. And he and Nick Barbary wrestled Smoking Guns. Nick Barbary has a cage match profile. He wrestled as Coach Richards, Nicholas Richards, Nick Richards, Nick Barbary, Nick Barbary, and Professor Ulysses Spite. That is the most incredible professional wrestling name of all time.
Billy Gunn.
To the point that somehow it triggered my Google Home device. I have no idea what just happened. His trainer. Okay, this is why this podcast, Wrestling at Random, is amazing. His trainer, Paul Roma.
It all comes back to the glory.
He could have subbed in the Guts and Glory team if any of those men got hurt, or at least Professor Ulysses Spite could have subbed in. I'm sorry, that was amazing. He wrestled till 2004. What?
Wow, Nick Barbary. Billy Gunn hits a sling blade that is called by Vince McMahon a reverse bulldog.
Yes, it's like a half sling blade. It's really like a Randy Savage hooking clothesline that just got a little bit too much hook on it. The entire story of this match, other than Jeremy Cutter being the greatest man alive, is how horrible and annoying Vince McMahon and Todd Pettengill are on commentary, with every possible cowboy and rodeo pun you've ever heard, including Vince saying something that when Bart Gunn tags in, he says he's coming out of shoot 44. I have no idea what this means.
That's like a bull riding thing here. That's still not cool or creative.
Well, that you say not cool or creative. That's one of my notes here coming out of this match, is that every single thing about the presentation of the World Wrestling Federation in late 1994 is the lamest thing you have ever seen in your entire life.
Bart puts Barbary on his shoulder, and then Billy comes off the top with like an elbow drop as they kind of power bomb him at the same time, driving him to the mat for the pin.
It's almost like ends up being like a flying reverse DDT by Billy, while Bart has him in this, like you said, the powerbomb Canadian backbreaker type of position. It's also weird because they do the sidewinder, the side slam, like leaping leg drop earlier on that would later be their finish. They do that just as a transition move. All I could think of watching this was, man, in just a few short years, the WWF tag team division is still going to suck. I thought of that SummerSlam with that
SummerSlam
four-way.
96. Yeah, that was 2 years later. Jeez, and it sucked so bad. You can listen to our review of SummerSlam 96 and how bad the tag team scene was. IRS, Erwin R. Scheitzer, the Mike Rotundo, as you alluded to earlier, part of the $1 Million Team. He's at a graveyard because he repossessed someone's headstone. Everybody pays IRS. Being 6 feet under is not a tax shelter, he says.
He says everyone living or dead must pay their taxes. This starts above ground, and then the promo ends with a camera shooting up from the dug up grave. From here, we hear.
I thought he was like, I'm like, are you feuding with The Undertaker? Is that what this is?
Yeah, no, he's just feuding with.
Because we're like, they're literally building to a casket match 10 days later from now. And like, so I'm like, oh, what does this have to do with the casket match? Like, no,
the answer is nothing, which again, that's very not what you would think of as WWF, even in the mid 90s, of like the quality control of not doing one thing that would make you think of another thing. We come out of this video feature, such as it was, to hearing Ted DiBiase's music, and I'm excited. And I see Ted DiBiase with IRS. I'm like, oh, Money Inc. They're wrestling as a tag team in 1994. Wait, no, that doesn't seem right. And instead, no, it's Ted DiBiase managing IRS to the ring to take on Mike Bell. IRS gets on the mic and says, nobody will rest in peace until you all pay your taxes. Was he shooting his own angle for a feud with The Undertaker that no one else was actually going to book? Mike Bell, I'm very disappointed. Like, after we saw Jeremy Cutter, this is like a poor man's Jeremy Cutter. Just a blank black singlet. No knee pads, no elbow pads, or wrist tape, which made me happy because jobbers should not be able to afford or be given such such luxuries in life. But he's more he's more trained than Cutter was.
Do you remember Mike Bell,
Perry Saturn,
and Perry Saturn
in
2001?
Because we are both disturbed human beings. Are both. It is actually like,
Mike Bell. It's the same guy. I
got really sad when you said, "Do you remember Mike Bell?" And I'm like, I'm 99.9% sure that I do, and I'm very disappointed in myself that these are the things that my brain still retains.
This is why we do a show. We know these things. Yeah, for those.
I don't want to know this, though. I would prefer not to remember that. I feel like I would have a much more full life if I did not remember things like that.
For those who aren't afflicted like Adam and I are, in 2001, Mike Bell was wrestling Perry Saturn for a match taped for Jacked or Metal, one of those things. Bell botches a move, and it causes Perry Saturn to land on his head. In response, Saturn legitimately attacks Bell and throws him out of the ring into the steel steps. Although neither wrestler sustained serious injuries, the incident garnered a whole bunch of attention within the wrestling community. Mike Bell, also known as in the 2008 documentary Bigger, Stronger, Faster, the documentary about all the steroid use, it was directed by his brother Chris Bell. It featured Mike's discussion about his own battles with substance abuse and depression. He was featured heavily in that documentary, and later that same year in 2008, Mike Bell was found dead at a rehab facility in California. So
wow,
all downhill for Mike Bell. IRS, he just hits a flying clothesline and wins real quick. Nothing else here.
Such a profoundly boring wrestler by this point in his career. We've had a a
He's had a
shocking amount.
lot of times where he was a very boring wrestler.
He absolutely did, and which has made it. But it's frustrating because like I can think of a few of those squash matches on Mid Atlantic where we
Yep.
saw him, and it's like there was a really, really, really good, interesting wrestler somewhere deep within Mike Rotunda, but
Teaming with Barry Windham, that tag team, he was
yeah,
a totally different guy than he was
exactly.
as Captain Mike Rotundo in WCW.
Left to his own devices. I mean, it dragged Ted DiBiase down as one half of Money Inc. I mean, you think of Ted DiBiase as such a star and like a real main event level guy in the WWF. He certainly did not feel that way in Money Inc.
We get a video clip building the Bob Backlund Bret Hart
Oh
match where it's
no! Before that, we get or wait, no, that's after. Sorry, I got very excited
don't
about
get excited.
the special WWF opinion poll. Got me really excited. I apologize.
we see clips from December 26th, 1983 on screen where Bob Backlund was WWF champion for 6 years. The Iron Sheik beats him for the championship because Arnold Scullin throws in the towel. And then cut to July 30th, 1994, Bob Backlund taking on Bret Hart. Backlund with a small package gets a 2. He thinks he won the title, but Hart ends up getting the win, and this is where it broke Bob Backlund, and he snaps and he becomes a heel. He attacks Bret Hart post-match, putting on the crossface chicken wing, and we see a montage of all the guys getting submitted by Backlund building up to this match via crossface chicken wing.
This list is incredible, and it also tells you where one particular wrestler stood just a year after being like pushed as the next centerpiece of the company. So first we see him put the crossface chicken wing on a magazine writer. I don't know if that was Vince Russo. One can only hope it was.
Yeah.
Then he puts it on his former manager, Arnold Scullin, who had to be like 107 years old by this point. He puts it on Bob Holly. He puts it on Duke the Dumpster Droese. And the last man he uses the crossface chicken wing on and injures and takes out is made in the USA Lex Luger, who just 15 months prior, the entire company felt like it was being built around. Maybe even not that long. Maybe I'm thinking of, was it SummerSlam 93 where he wrestled?
93. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, it was 93 with him and Yokozuna where he inexplicably won by count out and didn't win the title after all that buildup. But like, he was the guy. He was the new Hulk Hogan. Here, 15 months later, he is fodder for Bob Backlund's crossface chicken wing. So that was bizarre. It was also very not WWF to dig this deep into their history in a storyline. Like, not only did they not really ever talk about other companies' history, they didn't really play on their own history that much. Here, we're seeing footage from 1983 on a 1994 broadcast. Like, it's cool. Like, you have this amazing, like, built-in story you can tell of 10 or 11 years of frustration for Bob Backlund. But it's strange. It's also a funny note if you are a patron to go back to 6 years prior to this in 1988, Bob Backlund wrestling / fighting, whatever you want to call it, Nobuhiko Takada in the UWF in Japan.
That's over at the bonus feed, patreon.com/wrestling at random. There we have over 200 bonus episodes. That's one of them. Absolutely. For $5, you can unlock the entire back catalog and get that and all kinds of matches, many Bob Backlund appearances over there, including the worst Texas death match I've ever seen.
Oh God.
Bobby Duncombe and Bob Backlund.
Yeah. If rap was crap, I don't know what that was.
So here it's so weird to see. This clip is like just over 10 years old. But WWF in that 10-year period, you had the entire Hogan run.
Yeah.
And you went from this Madison Square Garden footage to what it was here in 1994. Like, what a change in a 10-year period. You had so much happen and so much change in 10 years. Like literally Hogan came and went. It's
Well, think
unbelievable.
in the presentation, everything. Think about like, say, the WWF, or I guess you have to call it WWE, from like 2005 to 2015. If you put a clip on from like 2005, 2006, 2007, and a clip on from like 2013, 2014, 2015, you would have no idea which was from which year. Nothing
Yeah.
looked different. The roster was completely static. Everything about the presentation was the same. Here, it looks like, and granted, it's not like they're at the heights of popularity in 1994, but just seeing the footage, it looks like it's from 30 years ago.
It does. Yeah.
Like compared to 1994.
Just if you're listening in linear fashion, last week we just reviewed NXT from 2014. That's 10 years ago. Like it's the same time difference between 94 and 83.
Well, yeah, and think about 2014 NXT versus 2025 NXT. We talked about it a little bit on the show. Like, yeah, like the studios are different. It's a little bit brighter, but like it's not that. It's nowhere near the like. It basically looks like the exact same production in a slightly different arena. Whereas this just looks like it's a different territory from a different like half century.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But yeah, so this was a good video to build the main event.
And they tell us on Monday Night Raw coming up, it will be Bob Backlund against the 1-2-3 Kid as we head toward Survivor Series.
Yeah, and it's going to be a submission match. And Bret Hart cuts a promo. He says, "You're from the lost generation because you've lost your mind. I do technical wrestling better than anyone on the planet. It's crossface chicken wing versus the sharpshooter." And like you mentioned, at the actual Survivor Series, Backlund defeats Bret, wins the WWF Championship when, after 30 plus minutes, Helen Hart, mother of Bret Hart, throws in the towel.
She's being berated by Owen, who, because Davey won't throw in the towel, and Owen has already turned heel when he tries to act like a baby face to get Helen to throw the towel in, and then he's back to being heel after she does. If I remember right, like Backlund has the crossface chicken wing on Bret Hart for felt like 10 minutes, if not longer. Like this match is 35 minutes. At least 10 of it is Backlund with the crossface chicken wing on. Bret, obviously, he's not, because it's throwing the towel. He's not going to submit, and Davey won't throw in the towel, or how, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but it dragged. It definitely dragged.
Back to the ring. Jim the Anvil Neidhart with Owen Hart.
This is where I have to jump in. The WWF special opinion poll.
That's right.
Which submission hold is better, the sharpshooter or the crossface chicken wing? Todd Pettengill keeps doing this weird accent whenever they're talking about the Survivor Series, because the Survivor Series is in Texas, so they're like
San Antonio.
So it's the Wild West. So he's doing this. It's like, just imagine Todd Pettengill doing a Texas accent. Like it's very, very strange. And then they talk about that one of the options on the hotline is Stan Lane's special gossip report. It is always so weird to remember that Stan Lane was in the WWF as a commentator during this time period, and they actually tried to make him like a lead play-by-play guy. There was that USA Network, like the night before SummerSlam show.
Yes.
That we reviewed, where it was Stan Lane and a very like grumpy Gorilla Monsoon on commentary. And it was Stan Lane attempting to do play-by-play with Gorilla on color, and it was bizarre. Like they tried so many different things with Stan Lane, whether it be the hotline, a backstage interviewer, a play-by-play guy, a color guy, and none of it worked. And it was so weird because he was never a WWF guy as a wrestler, but they brought him in and they were convinced he was going to be something, and no role worked.
No, and it always cracks me up when I see the prices for these hotlines. Like,
God, yeah.
You wanna do your opinion poll? It's gonna cost you $1.49 for the first minute and 99 cents each additional minute.
I'm going to do some on-air research and say, as we record this, what basically for the equivalent, what is $1.94 in from 1994 in 2025 money and see what this comes out to. This is some bonus feed type on-air research for you on the free feed. Okay, hold on. Here we go. This is, I found something from nerdwallet.com. 1994, $1.49 of American currency in 2025 would be, and this is a big buildup here, $3.21. It would be $3.21 per minute to give your opinion. And maybe hear a rumor from Stan Lane.
God. Jim the Anvil Neidhart with Owen Hart taking on Scott Taylor, the future Scotty Too Hottie, here in a jobber role.
What a match to get here. Jim Neidhart against Scott Taylor in a singles match. Why is Jim Neidhart ever wrestling a singles match on television?
I am watching this squash match, and I'm waiting for an Anvil dropkick, because every time we see Anvil, I'm always like, oh man, I'm surprised every time I see the Anvil throw a great dropkick. And so this time I'm prepared, and I'm watching for the Anvil dropkick. And I don't get it this time. No. When I'm ready for it, I don't get it. When I'm not ready for it, I'm surprised.
Post leaving his feet, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. You wouldn't think that there would be a drop off in Jim Neidhart's performance. Like visually, he still looks like him, and like it's not like he was the greatest wrestler to begin with. But post Hart Foundation, Jim Neidhart is rough to watch. On this in this match, they keep ranting and raving on how Bob Backlund could be the WWF's George Foreman, and it reminded me in a different way of that period of time where they could not stop talking about O.J. Simpson on WWF television. Like, they were so desperate to hook into pop culture. This is a complete nothing match. Owen is funny, ranting and raving at ringside about how he won't throw in the towel. Scott Taylor is small, but is wearing like a Steiner Brothers 80s or 90s singlet, which is funny. And Jim Neidhart wins with the Iron Sheik's camel clutch, which is, I guess, some irony here.
Yes, he wins for the submission. Next week, we're going to have Jeff Jarrett against Head Shrinker Fatu on the Action Zone. So can I check off one more Fatu character on my bingo card?
Yeah, well, yeah, the Fatu, and not Fatu and Samu Head Shrinker, but the Fatu and Sione the Barbarian Head Shrinker. This goes, yeah, there are so many, and that is another one. He's not making a difference here. But just think about this. You said week 1 of the Action Zone, which was less than a month prior. You said this is week 4?
3 weeks prior. Yeah,
this is week 4. So week 1 of the Action Zone. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Owen Hart for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. Week 2 of the Action Zone is Shawn Michaels and Diesel versus Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid for the WWF Tag Team Championship. Here on this show, I guess the main event, even though it was the first match on the show, was Bob Sparkplug Holly against Jerry Lawler. And the following week, it is Jeff Jarrett and Fatu.
Yes. After 2 weeks, they put this show right into the box for where a C show belongs.
They rampaged it hard. We go to the ring. For another thing I have no recollection of, and I was watching the product at this time, in-ring interviewer Raymond Rougeau. And this isn't like a French language show.
No.
This is
such a weird spot for him.
It's so weird. And he has this collection of men, the bad guys. I will admit, this is one of the entertaining things about Survivor Series matches is that like every character in the WWF was so absurd, but they didn't seem as absurd each individually. But when you put the collection of absurd human beings that aren't normally around each other in the ring for like a promo or something, it is hilarious. It's Razor Ramon, the 1-2-3 Kid, the British Bulldog's luscious hair and gigantic arms, and then this version of the Head Shrinkers, Fatu and the Barbarian, with Captain Lou Albano in there with them.
Yeah, they say nothing. They're just hyping their match. Our next match features Made in the USA Lex Luger, post Lex Express, post not winning the title at SummerSlam, like you mentioned, and post being cannon fodder for Bob Backlund.
My God, what a fall from grace here. But it's so strange because here he comes, and you get the pyro. He's got the little kid guest flag bearer. He still's Made in the USA Lex Luger. And so there's this massive presentation, but he's just a total non-entity. We do get a promotional consideration paid for by the following. The following are WWF Raw for Game Boy, Stetson Cologne, which is a very strange fit for what the wrestling demographic was on a Sunday morning at 11 a.m., and NBA Jam, the video game on Sega CD and Game Boy. Has there ever been a commercial for a video game where the graphic quality between two versions of the same game would be more divergent than a Sega CD game and a Game Boy game? Game Boy was not even in color.
NBA Jam had to be significantly more fun than that WWF Raw game for Genesis. Guaranteed.
My God. Absolutely. 100%.
Lex Luger is taking on HD Ryder.
HD Ryder looked... I need to look this up again because he looked to me, and I'm sure he wasn't, but he looked like Ozempic Rochester Roadblock.
Yes, Roadblock is literally what my notes say. Feels like Roadblock.
So he is unclickable as well. So he joins Jeremy Cutter. Maybe this was his only match. He also had
sucked.
strong... Who was that on California Championship Wrestling? Like Metal Master McGee or whatever that dude's name was. That was wrestling the Haystacks Calhoun looking guy. What was his name?
Oh God,
ridiculous. It was a name that didn't really fit. I will try to see if I can pull up my notes here from that show. Let's see, California Wrestling.
He was begins with a G, right?
The Steel Gladiator.
Gladiator. That's it. I knew it.
Sure that this is not an 8 years later Steel Gladiator HD Ryder.
This match sucked. It was Luger doing his normal Luger match, and this HD Ryder just didn't know what to do or how to do anything, and not in a way that made it look like a struggle, not in a way that it was a fun jobber untrained beating. It was just weird. I don't know what it was about this. The whole vibe was off on this match. So weird.
The whole vibe was off. Lex was completely checked out to the point to where, like, in the past, like always, his big setup for the torture rack would be, the Irish whip, and he hit the big power slam. Here he hits the Irish whip. It looks like it's going to be the power slam. Like he scoops him up, he rotates, but then he doesn't even go down to his knees. It's just like
just drops
a
him.
spinning body slam. Like he knows it's over.
He puts this guy in the torture rack, and does Vince McMahon call it the Rebel Rack?
He calls it the Rebel Rack, which is so strange to me because if Lex Luger is made in the USA, he is not made in the Confederacy. Why are we calling this the Rebel Rack?
It was so strange.
It's also a strange, like I had no recollection of Lex Luger ever using the torture rack in the WWF. I always remember him using the flying bionic forearm as the finish. Charlie Min, who is one of their, I believe Charlie Min may have also been on Mania. I think, God, I hate myself for remembering this, but I think when Action Zone started, I could be wrong, but I feel like when Action Zone started, and he only was on for a couple weeks, that they may have initially moved Todd Pettengill off of Mania to put him on Action Zone, and I believe Charlie Min may have hosted Mania with Stephanie Wyand, if I'm not mistaken.
Ted DiBiase cuts a promo talking about how his team is going to win at the Survivor Series. And we go to the ring for our final match. The $1 Million Man brings out his team of King Kong Bundy and Bam Bam Bigelow to take on Phil Apollo and Todd Mata.
Phil Apollo is another guy that, like, I know. So I'm pulling up his cage match right now because, like, I feel like we've seen him a lot. So his career spanned from 1986 to 1995, world class, AWA, WWF. He
Yeah,
even
we've
did,
seen this guy before.
we've seen him. He did two enhancement matches for WCW in 1989. The most curious thing, so then again, enhancement stuff in all the way through 95 in WWF, even a little bit. And he lost to Marcus Alexander Bagwell in 1993 in WCW. But by far the strangest thing about this otherwise completely unremarkable career is 3 matches at Arena Mexico in August and September of 1994. Then EMLL, what we know as CMLL, 2 out of 3 falls matches, teaming with El Rayo de Jalisco Jr. and Solomon Grundy.
Wow.
So yeah, like what a weird. I just, in a million years, there is nothing about Phil Apollo's career other than like that would lead you to believe he would have ever been in CMLL. Maybe like they thought he was related to Apollo Dantes. I don't know. It's very, very weird. So there's, yeah. So wait, did he wrestle as? He also wrestled as Vince Apollo. So he's Vince Apollo in CMLL.
Bam Bam misses a charge in the corner, and this allows Apollo to tag Mata in. Bam Bam kills this man with an elbow, tags in Bundy. Bundy kills this guy. He doesn't want to pin him yet, though. Bam Bam throws the dude in the corner. He wants Apollo back in again. This has been the story of the match, is Bam Bam wants Apollo. Apollo keeps running away. And so he just throws Mata in the corner and forces the tag into Apollo. Apollo gets sent to the ropes. Bigelow puts his head down for a backdrop. Apollo kicks him and runs to tag out again. This was hilarious. This is my favorite part of the show.
It was amazing. And it's made more amazing by the fact that like Phil Apollo is a trained wrestler. He's not in great shape, but he's not in horrible shape. He has an odd look because he's basically wearing Rick the Model Martel's gear, but the body type could not be more different. Todd Mata is another guy on this show who does not, he's unclickable on Cage Match. So it's hilarious that Phil Apollo, the trained wrestler, is afraid of Bam Bam Bigelow and constantly tags in this poor, pathetic, unaware of what professional wrestling is, jobber Todd Mata.
So as soon as Apollo like runs away and tags out, Mata comes in, Bam Bam annihilates Mata with a clothesline and just runs right over to knock Apollo off of the apron.
Yes.
So he got in a shot on Apollo. And then we get an avalanche in the corner by Bam Bam. And then an avalanche in the corner by Bundy. And Bundy wins with the 5 count. Bam Bam's avalanche, 1,000,000 times better than Bundy's avalanche.
We mentioned Jim Neidhart and how he looked just like Hart Foundation Jim Neidhart, but like nothing at all in this match. Like the passion was gone. King Kong Bundy looks exactly like King Kong Bundy of like the mid 80s in the WWF here, but he is such a complete and total non-entity. It's so strange because like you can't figure out why, but he's just nothing here.
Yeah, it's so bizarre, but he does win with the 5 count, which is one of my favorite things Bundy does.
Absolutely. The thing coming out of this match is that, like, I want the Bam Bam Bigelow Phil Apollo singles match. This entire show was building to Survivor Series 1994. I don't want to see anything on that show 10% as much as I want to see Bam Bam Bigelow and Phil Apollo go at it in a singles match.
We might have already hit on it, but I'll throw it to you for your favorite thing on this show. Mine is Bam Bam with Phil Apollo.
Oh, it's 100% Bam Bam with Phil Apollo. There is not much to choose from on this show. As someone who is excited when the randomizer pulled an early episode of Action Zone, I did not remember how quickly Action Zone just became a complete nothing show. So I had hopes there was going to be something to the level of the matches from the first 2 weeks. Nothing even remotely approaching it. Like, I enjoy a good B show. I enjoy a good C show. We've talked about that before, but this was just a show that existed.
Yeah, honorable mention for favorite thing to that Bob Backlund video package.
Yes.
Really well done there.
The most effective thing on this show as far as building to a match they're actually going to give us, unlike Bam Bam Bigelow and Phil Apollo.
Worst thing on this show, there's plenty to choose from on that.
Normally I would say, well, the tape didn't start from the beginning of the show. I would say that was the worst thing, but man,
solid.
the 90 seconds we saw of Jerry Lawler and Bob Sparkplug Holly, I don't think I need to see however many minutes were before that. I mean, the IRS stuff on the show was bad. By the way, honorable mention to the best thing on the show is everything about Jeremy Cutter's presentation.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, he's tremendous. Yeah, for me, the worst thing is too much IRS. We had a vignette and a match. This is too much IRS.
Too much IRS and too much Todd Pettengill. Clearly.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Apologies to IRS. Todd Pettengill is the worst thing on the show by a mile. That guy's unbearable.
And if you'll notice, we had lots of notes through the first few segments about how horrible Todd Pettengill was, and that we did not mention him for like the last 3 or 4 segments. It's not because he left. It's not because he got better. To get through this, your brain had to tune him out to make it through, and that is exactly what happened.
It is exactly it. With that, we're going to wrap it up and call it a show. If you want to share your thoughts on Action Zone or any of the other shows, as the entire back catalog of this podcast on the free feed here is all evergreen content. So if you're listening to it now, it's as fresh and new as the day it came out. So if you're listening to it now, and we want to hear your thoughts on anything you're listening to on the free feed or bonus feeds, you can interact with the show at Wrestle at Random on all of the social media platforms. You can subscribe to this podcast on any podcatcher of your choice. And if you prefer the video version of the podcast, that is available over at YouTube. Search for Wrestling at Random Podcast at YouTube. And throw us a subscribe and like over there. It helps us work the algorithm so other wrestling fans can find the show. And if Spotify is your podcatcher of choice, not only do you get the audio version of the podcast there, but the video version is there as well in the same player.
So crazy. It still seems like some sort of like black magic every time I pull up like Wrigleyville Nation, and then like I pulled up and I go, wait, Jeremy's face, it's moving. There's sound. What is going on? It's the full video in the normal Spotify player. It's very, very cool.
So if you don't consume your podcast via video form, those YouTube like and subscribes help us out. Make sure that if you're interested in some of the bonus content we mentioned on the show, it's super easy to go give it a try. You can go over to patreon.com/wrestlingatrandom. For $5, you can unlock a back catalog of over 200 bonus episodes that you have not heard before. $5 gets you the entire back catalog. If you are listening via Apple Podcasts, you can also, right there in Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe. It'll unlock every single one of those episodes that are labeled bonus that you can't listen to right now. It'll unlock all those for $5 in your feed as well. So however you want to consume your bonus content, give it a shot. And there's plenty of other fun things to do over on the bonus feed. You can even be the randomizer. You can be we take requests. It's an intentionalized tier where you can submit a show, a match, a movie even for us to watch, and we will watch, review, and you can continue to get all the great bonus content over there. With that, we're going to wrap it up and call it a podcast. Adam, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeremy. I don't think I'll say thank you, randomizer.
No.
Action Zone, I think I may have had more fond memories for it than it deserved. Yeah, we'll see. Who knows? Maybe the randomizer will bring us one of those first 2 episodes of Action Zone. Or maybe it'll bring one post Todd Pettengill. That would be preferable as well.
No, the way the randomizer works, it'll be one of those Todd Pettengill, Doc Hendricks episodes.
Oh, my God. That's, yeah. Oof.
Thanks again, everyone, for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.